Alright, here we are with this Micromatic turntable that's out of the larger walnut cabinet. And this one had several problems. First, it wouldn't go into auto function, but after a couple minutes of just kind of messing around with the mechanism, that works now. It still all needs to be lubricated and everything, but at least it does work. Also, this arm has two screws. One of those is missing right there, so I'm going to have to come up with a screw to put in there out of my stash and make sure that's in the correct position. Also, it's just freaking filthy on the bottom. I'll show you what I mean. I mean, just absolutely filthy. Just crap hanging, and oh, I mean, and definitely somebody smoked. But I'm going to clean all this stuff off here, get it nice and lubricated, and it'll be a ton better. But there's the model number. I'm sorry it's upside down, but it's 604-06- what is that? Shit, 03. Sorry. It's even got a serial number for the turntable itself. Made in England, and I believe this is a Collaro turntable also. But let's go ahead and take the platter off. I'll clean this, lubricate it, take the platter off, and do all the business that needs to be done on this one, just like on the other one. Okay, I've got the platter off this thing, and holy sheep balls. I mean, look at this. This is just, look at that. Good God. I mean, where was this thing? A hair salon? Jeez. Alright, here's this Micromatic changer out of the larger cabinet, all cleaned up, all lubed up, and ready to go. You can see it's a hell of a lot cleaner under here now. And practically every part was lubricated with white lithium grease. You can find that stuff in the automotive section of Walmart or at any automotive store. Pretty common stuff, but basically anywhere where you know, two parts touch or normally rub against one another, all of these parts got white lithium grease. All the old grease was cleaned off, all the dust and grime of the ages all cleaned off. All of the motor actually seemed okay, so I didn't bother with it too much. I did lubricate it on the top shaft. These screws, which are height adjustment screws for the turntable, and they also serve to tighten the turntable down during shipping. These had dust all over those, so that was all cleaned off. This mechanism was all lubricated. This is the changer mechanism. If you'll recall, the changer wasn't working at first, and I don't even know what got it working. I think one of these parts was just kind of seized up, and after messing with it for a second, it started going through. So I lubricated all that. It seems fine now, and just basically gave it all a big spick and span. There were a couple of problems besides the lubrication, and I'll show you what I mean. And if you get one of these that has this problem, you might check this. Oh, there's a part we need to make sure we hold on to. That right there goes on the little on the spring. Keeps the leg from falling through the spring once you put it back in the cabinet. But this thing actually had a problem. When I got it, this top was bent slightly, and this piece that holds the records up before they change was not returning to this position. And if you look really closely, there is a spring, or it's not a spring really, it's just a piece of metal that's bent into shape that forms a spring that slides down from the top inside of this piece and holds holds this piece outward. You can see it in there just kind of moving whenever I push this inward. That springy piece of metal was not in the correct position. It was actually behind this piece. So it took me a second to figure that out. I was like, how in the hell do they spring this thing? I was looking underneath and everything else, but no, it's a little piece of metal that comes in, slides in from the top. So if you have a problem with your changer and this piece not returning to the outward position, that could be your problem. Just check that little spring. But I lubricated all of this to make sure those pieces slide past one another nicely, and everything seems good to go on this unit. Added another screw over here to this because this thing was just flopping around in relation to the shaft. It was just turning freely. So that extra screw right there tightens it down so it does not continue to turn once it gets past the correct position. The arm here, it was actually, when it returned, it was actually returning past this post. It was going further than it should have. So the way to fix that is, if you look on the bottom, let's make sure, see if I can do this without, here we go. If you look on the bottom here, there are a couple of screws right there. There's one of them, and there's another one. Yeah, right down in there. Those two screws, if you loosen those, that allows you to move this piece in relation, because this armature right here hooks into that, and you can move those with relation to the tone arm and get it back into position, and then retighten these screws into the correct position. So that's just another one of the adjustments you may have to do if you have a turntable like this. But overall, yeah, and this is the model, let's see, this is the model 604-06- whatever that is, 03. There we go. So it's a 604 model. But yeah, let's get this one back in the cabinet and test it out. Also, the other changer, I've had it playing around with it for a little while, changing records, and everything pretty much works for the most part. But when you first go into the phono mode, if if you're listening to the stereo or something, and you go into phono mode, at first sometimes the record changer is a bit slow, and it takes a second to get up to the correct speed. And then also, every now and then, it's for whatever reason, the records aren't dropping whenever the changer mechanism works, but sometimes the records don't drop. So I'm going to get in there and do some more lubrication on it, probably lubricate the shaft up here as well, check this piece on the other one and see if it's correct. But yeah, this one is pretty much cleaned up really nicely. It was absolutely filthy with cigarette gunk. I mean, it had tar, nicotine, whatever cigarette gunk is, all over everything. And it was like a golden color, but now it's cleaned up nicely to a silvery sort of color. So completely different color even after giving it a good clean. So yeah, let's get this one back in its rightful cabinet, and let's re-lubricate the other one and make it correct, and we'll give them both a test. Alright, I went ahead and pulled this table back out of the unit to do some more work on it, because the changer's not working right for some reason again now. So we'll have to look at it again. This gives you an idea of the differences between the two. You can see this one, the platter is much bigger than it is on this one. The units overall, this one is not much bigger, but a little bit bigger than this one. Another obvious difference is, again, this one has the mechanism underneath here that hooks the tone arm into place so it can't move. This one has no such mechanism, so if you move this thing around, you have to be careful it doesn't flop. So that's an improvement here, but one disadvantage on this one is this one does not have a separate changer wheel underneath the platter. It's all operated off the same mechanism that drives the turntable. So when you're in 78 mode, for instance, the changing mechanism will fly up and go over real quick, and it seems like it's going to fly apart on you. So it's a little bit fast in 78 mode, and it's a little slower in other modes. But this one has two wheels. One is independent for the changer, so the changer operates at the same speed no matter what speed selection you're on the records. So that's an advantage of the older model, this one. But yeah, let's take another look at this one and see what's going on with it. And I'll go ahead and take this platter back off again and just re-lubricate everything, make sure I didn't miss anything, and make sure everything's adjusted. Again, you know, this is one of those things where something can seem like it's working correctly, but it doesn't. You know, a little problem doesn't rear its ugly head until, you know, after several records have been gone on the thing. So that's just the brakes. It's the way it is. You got to be prepared to pull them out again. But luckily, this one is easy to get out of the cabinet. You don't even have to take the back off to get this changer out, which is another advantage of this one over this one. This one you actually have to take the back off the cabinet. You have to reach up under there and do all sorts of things to get this one out, to take clips off and everything else. Whereas this one, you just turn these clips right here sideways and get them in the correct position, and then lift it up and then unplug the plugs, and then you got the changer out. So that's simple. But yeah, let's open this one up again, re-lubricate everything, and then when the needle comes in for this one, we'll test them both side by side. Okay, the needle for this unit finally came in, and we're going to change it. But first we're going to have to do a little bit of modification to it. This is the needle that I ordered, and as you can see, it has these wings on the ends of it. Those are going to have to be removed in order to fit in this, because the wings just, this cartridge is just too wide to accommodate this one, so we're going to remove those wings with a little saw so that we can fit that on there. But this is needle number 558D7, and here's where I bought it from. turntableneedles.com. So if you have one of these, you can go here, order 558D7, and you can do the following to it. Okay, sorry in advance for the lighting, but this is pretty much the best I can do. But as you can see, I've used this Stuart McDonald fret saw to saw off those wing tips. And if you're going to do this, you know, be aware this does void the warranty on this thing and the return policy. So, you know what you're doing before you endeavor to do this. I'm pretty sure this is going to work. Even if it doesn't, I'm sure I can still use this in the other turntable I already have, even with the wings off. So it's not a huge loss. It'll just be a spare needle for the future for that other set. If it doesn't work in this one, I'm pretty sure it's going to work though. So let's try it in this one and see where it gets us. Okay, again, I'll apologize for the lighting on this, but we're going to try to make this happen where you can see it. If you see this little clip right here, this I've moved to the side to make it a little bit easier to get this thing in, hopefully. I don't think you have to do that, but this is something, as a matter of fact, I might move it back just to get it in the more conventional way. It's supposed to simply snap into place like that. And I believe that's pretty much got it. I believe that's pretty much got it right there, so make sure that's seated. Okay, let's give it a shot and see what it sounds like. Okay, here finally is the moment of truth with this unit, and for the purpose of this test we're going to use a Brandon Butler LP that was given to me by the artist himself. He lives here in Louisville, and again I will put his link down in the description if you want to check out his music. But for the purpose of this demo we're going to use his record, and let's see what she does. So far, so good. This song has a quiet intro. Sounds like we might have a little bit of wow and flutter, so I might have to take it back out and do some more lubrication on it. Just for the heck of it, since we were getting a little bit of flutter, or at least I suspect we were, I'm going to check the tracking weight on this thing and see if that might be an issue. Let's see. Alright, we got this set to grams. Let's tear it out. Let's see where we're tracking at. 2.4 grams is probably a bit light. So I'm going to adjust that to increase the heaviness just a smidgen. But I don't think that's going to take the wow and flutter out. If anything, that might make it drag even more. But I want to get it, I think, up to about 3 grams. But let me check the specs on this just to be sure, but I think it should be tracking around 3 grams. Okay, the one thing I don't think I really lubricated well enough before was the motor. In order to get the motor apart, there are 4 nut driver screws on the corners here, and this just simply lifts off. And here inside of this part, there's a shaft, and we want to lubricate that really well. Also, the male portion of that shaft we want to lubricate also. Over here on the other side, this gives us better access to this piece, and we're going to lubricate all of this down here to the entire shaft. You can see it's got some lube on it, but it's not spinning quite as freely as one would hope. So hopefully just by lubricating this very well and also cleaning this off a little better than it has been, we can take out that wow and flutter. I think I may even see a little bit of oil on a couple of these, so maybe that was the problem. Maybe I'm getting a little slippage. So let's clean this very well with alcohol, and if there's still a little bit of oil on it, we'll even bust out some Dawn dish liquid and get it nice and clean, and then we will oil this shaft, oil the other shaft as well. Okay, I've completed my second lubrication on this thing, and let's see what it does now. Much better. So yeah, the wound flutter is all gone. Let's check out the lead out. Looks good. Alright, one last order of business with this record changer. The 45 RPM adapter had one of the clips, one of the little white plastic clips was stuck down inside the housing and would not spring back outward. So I took the thing apart and determined that the fault lay in this little nub right here. One of these was broken off. You can see there's a nub back here and there's another nub right there. And what those do is those hold the clips through those little holes on the clips. And when that's broken off, the clip will just roam free and ultimately get stuck down in there. So I've glued that back down and hopefully it holds, and then we'll get everything back together and see if we can salvage this original 45 adapter. Alright, we got this thing back together and we have that nub glued back into place, and we have all the associated parts put back on it with the springs, or the single spring rather. We still have this piece, this whole assembly that goes on top of that, and it goes on in kind of this manner. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. It kind of goes on something like this, and then these pieces go down over these nubs. Something like that, but then these nubs back here have to go down, and I'm not sure if this one's going to slip down over that or not. We'll have to carefully do it. Let me see if I can get that done. Okay, there we go. That whole assembly is back on there, and now all that's left is to screw the top on. And there's two ways this can go, this way or this way, but I think this little piece right here goes in that spot right there. So let's flip it around. Yeah, I think it goes this way. So let's get that screwed back on. Alright, now that's back together completely. Both of these are nice and springy the way they're supposed to be. And that should work now. Alright, so that's it for now. I'm glad you guys stuck around for this long video series. Please be sure to subscribe for more videos like this in the future, and y'all take care.